Erica and Sharon are sisters who began their grief journey in 2006 when Erica's 10-year-old son Austin drowned. Together, they participated in a grief education program, were so moved by this experience, they studied and became specialists so they could help the brokenhearted find recovery. In 2015, tragedy struck their family once again when Erica's oldest son Donovan was killed in a motorcycle accident. Erica and Sharon are committed to sharing their experiences of love, loss, and healing through this podcast. Now your grief specialists, Sharon and Erica.
Hey friends, welcome back. You are watching and listening to Healing Starts with the Heart, the podcast where it's all about you, the griever, and your broken heart. My name is Sharon Brubaker, and I normally do this show with my sister, Erica Honore, and I love her, but we had technical difficulties, and we just kicked her off the podcast. Sorry, you're not going to be here for this one. So this is my amazing friend, Jennifer Osler-Bolton. We'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, we're going to talk about the holidays. Because just to catch up all of our friends who may have not listened to the other shows, you did grief recovery. You ended up grieving your husband, and you were still married. Mm-hmm. And about 9 months after that, your husband Ryan passed away tragically in a fire accident. He was a fireman. Mm-hmm. So we pick up from there. You and I had done grief recovery, and then we came upon these holidays. But the day Ryan died, a few days later, was your anniversary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you had to go through that, like, days later, immediately.
Yeah.
How did you, when you found, the day that Ryan had died, did you realize your anniversary was coming up? I mean, did the thought come to you then, or was it later?
No, it was later, actually, while we were planning the funeral. Because the funeral was, he died September 21st. The funeral was October 3rd, and our anniversary is October 7th.
Oh, man.
So it was as we were, you know, picking the day for the funeral and stuff like that, that I realized, yeah, my anniversary was just days afterwards.
So one of the things that Eric and I often talk about is have a plan. Don't hit a first without a plan. Did you have a plan for that anniversary?
No, I didn't. Because I didn't have, well, that's not true, actually. I personally did not have a plan, but my girlfriends had a plan for me. So they took me out to dinner, and they celebrated my anniversary with me. So that was really nice. So I personally did not have a plan, because I think everything was just, he had just died a couple of weeks earlier.
Of course.
And I didn't, you know, I don't think I had thought that far. But the day of my anniversary, I received flowers from the fire department. My girlfriends took me out to dinner, so we celebrated. So it was nice to still celebrate the day.
So what I want people to understand is that you're still grieving. Mm-hmm. Your heart is still broken. Mm-hmm. Having a plan doesn't mean that you don't feel pain.
Oh gosh, no.
Having the plan means that you went into it with a plan, because the opposite of having the plan, the day would have looked like you laying on the couch crying, and maybe you would have got 1 or 2 phone calls, and people wouldn't have realized it was your anniversary. It's the exact opposite. Having the plan, it's like you go into it with something to do. It's just to ease it a little bit, and being able to talk. And having the girlfriends around, I would imagine, is like you could do the cry while you're at dinner and saying, I wish he was here with me.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And it helps to have that group.
Yeah.
It helps to have that group, because they took me out to dinner, and it was lovely, and it was nice. And one of the girls, her husband had ordered a bottle of wine for us before we got there. So, you know, there were flowers waiting for me. They put so much thought into that for me, and it was so kind. But I was checked out, like, during dinner, you know, like, because you're thinking the whole time, it's like, this is so enjoyable. And it was wonderful. And I was so grateful for it. But you can't help but sit there and, like, I'm celebrating my anniversary.
Right.
But technically I'm now not married. I'm single. You know what I mean? Like, so there's all these thought, and the reason that was specifically the unmarried single part was because the day before I had to do a bunch of paperwork, and I remember sitting there staring at the paperwork, and I had a friend with me helping me, and there's a box I had to check.
Yeah.
Single, married, divorced, you know, and widowed wasn't on. It wasn't one of the options. And so I remember sitting there with my pen, like, hovering over it, and it was just like, what do I check? Because, you know, I mean, what do I do? I'm married. I feel married.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it was so heavy on my mind as we were celebrating my anniversary, was just that, oh, but I'm actually technically not married, but I'm celebrating my wedding anniversary.
And here's the thing that's so huge, is that we're talking about the first holidays without our loved one, but there's a lot of firsts that don't have a holiday connected to it. Like one of my other grievers shared on the show recently, and I hadn't even thought of this, and now I talk about it quite often, is going to the dentist office and having to take off the emergency contact. Like I never thought about that. It's the same as having, what do I check?
Oh yeah, and it's especially with anything that has to do with the kids.
Yeah.
And they ask for a parent, and it's, you know, next to father, I'm deceased, you know, things like that. So it's, and I think too, I've said over the last 3 years, that having a husband in the fire service was a blessing and a curse with this, because the blessing was we actually didn't really have a specific thing like, oh, every Christmas morning we did this, because it was always different. Some days he was at work, some days he was coming home. You know, even our anniversary, it wasn't always, well, we always went to this one restaurant, or we always did this, because sometimes he was at work. You know, so it wasn't so much for me personally, because of the fire service. I was used to him not being home. So it's more the day-to-day stuff like that. Like, okay, he might not have been home on our anniversary, but he probably would have come home the next day and would have had a card, or would have had flowers, or, you know, so there was no specific consistency to our holidays and stuff. So for me personally, and I think with the kids, the day-to-day stuff is actually what was most difficult. So, but he died in September, and then we had a slew of, it was like ripping off a Band-Aid. Let's just get everything right now.
Where I'm going. You're like, let's one of everything, please.
It was,
yeah, so
our anniversary, then Halloween, which he loved Halloween. He loved Halloween. He loved scaring all the neighborhood children when they would come to the door. Like, he loved it. He absolutely loved it. So we had Halloween, which then just
plus
looked
you had the
different.
aspect of your kids getting their costumes.
Yeah,
it's going to Halloween without their dad. There's a whole different aspect of it.
Which, and even if he were at work, because that's happened before, but I would send him pictures or things. So it was just like, you know, there was just no body there for me to do that. So we had Halloween, and then 2 days after Halloween was my birthday. And then his mom's birthday followed 10 days later. Then his daughter's our daughter's birthday was a week later after that. Then his Thanksgiving. I mean, it just was back to back to back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, talk about getting, it's like being put in the dryer and on the fast spin cycle.
Yeah.
How did you approach each holiday? How did you approach each first?
I think because having the tools and the knowledge of grief recovery, I kind of knew what to expect in a sense. So I just kind of prepared myself. I prepared myself for having to go get the Christmas tree without him, because we don't have artificial trees. That's one thing he loved. He loved going and hunting for a Christmas tree. Like, this was, we'd go at night because we had like the lights in the lot. Like, I mean, you know, our traditions maybe weren't the same. Like Christmas Day, we may not have had the same exact traditions due to his work schedule, but we had these in betweens, which actually were a little bit more difficult for our family. So it was having to coordinate with another family when they were available to go with us to get the Christmas tree, and you know, so it was just one of those things where I just had to mentally prepare myself. There was nothing that I could do to make it easier. And looking back at pictures now, like I can see that it was different. Like, we didn't go at night the first year, you know, which I actually don't think was on purpose. But it was just different. It was just different.
And because you had children, not doing it was not an option.
Oh yeah, no.
And did the kids ever say to you they didn't want to do the holiday? No. Did they ever so they wanted to keep those little bit of those traditions going. They needed it.
It's actually, even still, 3 years. This is actually our 4th Christmas coming up without Ryan, because even though but that's the tricky thing with time, isn't it? Like, his accident was 3 years ago, but this is our 4th Christmas without him. And my kid, he was such a traditionalist. Like, he just, you know, like, decorations went in the same spot each year, you know, like things like that. And he loved Christmas so much, he's embedded it in, well, me too. We've embedded it in our I know how much you love Christmas.
I just love it. You posted just the other day, there are these little dolls that were made by somebody in your family, and Ryan loved them.
Loved them.
He loved them. His sister made them. And so you guys put them up every year.
We put them up every year. And
is it bittersweet?
It's definitely because it's sweet. And
It's
now,
sweet.
now it's reached the point where it's sweet,
Sweet.
because remembering him now, just because of the work that's been done. Like I've had to grieve him even as recently as 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, like I go through all these motions. So I think because I do the work often
Yes.
on him, that when I do pull out the penguins,
Yeah.
and I smile with them, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, he loved these things so much, you know. And so I put them up, and in the same spot. They go in the same
right
spot,
spot.
and and my kids love that. I think for my kids, each child is different, each family is different. But for my kids personally, tradition is huge for them. It's a very big deal, and not so much of like a. We don't want anything to change, not like that, but just it actually brings up the memories. And for me and my kids,
So I was going to say, how healthy is that?
I'm grateful.
How healthy is that? Now they know the penguins are there. You posted about it, which is really great. We're all sharing in on it, which is, I thought it was awesome. I was going to put something mean, but I didn't.
It's because you knew I was coming here today. That's why. I know.
And they can look at that. I don't know. It's comforting.
It's
like people talk about the comfort foods. You know what I mean? It's sort of like for them.
Well,
they're
that's
like,
good because I don't cook. Yeah. So here's your comfort stocking,
here's
and
your
here's your comfort penguins.
And your tree is in the same
Yeah.
spot and all
Yeah.
that. I think for the kids that's important, but it's also important for you.
It is. It is. It's nice. We have just going back to traditions. Like
Right.
the one thing I wanted to do with my kids from that first Christmas on was face it. I didn't want to run from it. I didn't want a different Christmas.
Kudos.
I didn't want things to be different because I didn't want my kids to feel like our family, everything changes because Daddy's not here.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that for them
Yeah.
because I feel like for me personally, and I don't mean to project this onto anybody else's grief journey, but for me personally, to run from it makes it feel like we're just hiding from him.
Right.
We're hiding from the reality. We're hiding from the truth.
Yes.
And I didn't want that for my kids.
And you can't live like that.
No,
That's
because
not
you can't,
living.
you can't run forever.
No.
So for my kids, now that we're coming up on our 4th Christmas, and I'm thick in the throes of decorating, I know you love that. But for my kids, like they're so happy about it. There actually isn't. There's a missing him, but it's not attached with a sadness for him. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it comes with it. Like we pull the stockings out, and it's not gut wrenching to
I
pull out his
remember
stocking.
when Daddy did this and he put it there.
Yes.
Okay, question. Did you set any new traditions?
Any new traditions? I don't think there's been any specifically new traditions.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've just adopted it as a new normal.
And then do you guys still celebrate his birthday?
We do.
Awesome.
Yeah, we do
Oh, that's
celebrate his
so cool.
birthday. We go out to the cemetery and we get balloons and we make a whole big deal about
Oh.
it. Balloons, we get cupcakes or whatever it is, and the kids know that's just Father's Day. We do the same thing.
Oh, beautiful.
And we celebrate it, and I want to do that for my kids.
And do you celebrate your anniversary?
Don't celebrate it anymore, but I
Yeah.
definitely acknowledge it.
You
for sure.
acknowledge
Mhm.
it, and you acknowledge it,
Absolutely.
and that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
That is so beautiful. Now, how about the extended family? Because Ryan's mom is still around, his sister's around, your parents are still around. How has that been? Are they included in the family traditions? Is that something you guys normally did?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We definitely. We don't usually, again, with Ryan's schedule, it was always different. So we didn't have it set, excuse me, we didn't have it set like, oh, every Christmas Eve we do this, because it was always different. We would
Right.
do Christmas Eve or Christmas Day with Ryan's family, depending on his work schedule. But either day that it happened, it was all the same celebration. Like Ryan's whole family, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, they would all come on whatever day Ryan was available. They would all come. So that's the only thing that's been consistent since his passing is, okay, well, Christmas Eve is with my family, and then Christmas Day, we spend it with Ryan's family, and they're big traditionalists also, so we don't steer far from what the normal has been, which
What
is
would you
good.
guys normally
And
do?
my kids love that.
Yeah.
Like the kids, for my kids, I see when we're living in the traditions,
Yeah.
they're happiest,
Yeah.
because then they don't feel like, oh, like Daddy didn't exist,
Right.
or oh, it's obvious Daddy's not here, or it's, you know what I mean, like they love it
or doing
because what it
something
brings
so
up.
drastically different. Okay, so this is what I found. I found that we, when Austin died back in 2006, we almost like we froze and we waited to see what Erica and Lewis were going to do, and we responded based on what they were going to do, right? And so one of the things that was really important is that Lewis came home and we were like all just looking at him, and immediately he started talking about Austin, sharing Austin, everything. One of the things that's been so important for Erica has always been to celebrate the boys' birthday, Donovan and Austin, and we all celebrate their birthdays. Do you think that people were looking to see what you were going to do, and they almost were like, it's like we hold our breath.
I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then
I'm
when
sure.
they saw you getting into it and celebrating and putting up the penguins, they were like, okay.
Yeah.
It's important, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
It's important for
Absolutely it is.
everyone else around, not just for yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, one of the things I had written, shared my story with this other blog, and one of the things that I had written was that what I've learned with Ryan's loss is that love doesn't stop just because the heart stops beating, you know. And so I feel like, you know, just because he's not here, it doesn't mean he's not here. You know what I mean? So I love that my kids, so the one thing my kids and I, we still do is, so the top of our Christmas tree is filled with airplane ornaments because Ryan was a huge airplane fanatic. He loved airplanes, and so we would buy him an airplane ornament every year. So the top of the tree is Ryan's fleet. That's his fleet, but we keep buying them. Like we've just been adding to him. We've just been adding to the fleet because he loved it. And you know, and the last thing I want my kids to ever feel is that life moves on, and so we leave Daddy behind. Like, no, Daddy's coming with us. You know, like he's along for the ride. He's just not here to voice his opinion. You know, he can't say anything to us. But I don't ever want my kids to feel like, well, we can't do this because of this. You know, we can't do what we've always done because, you know, Daddy's not here. Like I love it. And then it helps because when the holidays come up, my kids are excited about it. You know, there's an excitement. You know, Amanda, my daughter, is very much like, well, when are we doing Christmas cookies? And when are we doing this? And when are we, you know, she can be present for the holidays because I've made it comfortable to, I don't want to say I, but like, you know, like we've made the home comfortable to talk about him.
It's so healthy. I love the whole aspect about it. So I want to say congratulations to you because you recently remarried.
I did.
To Michael Bolton.
To Michael Bolton. Not that Michael Bolton.
I just want to say I love you, and I love that I've been able to watch your journey. I love that I've been able to see you have your ups and downs, and you grow, and what you're bringing to your family and to your kids, and now your new husband, which is so exciting. Thank you for sharing this, and I also think the fact that you got remarried is another show we might have to come back and do.
I would love to.
So, Michael, welcome to the family. We're so excited. What is the one bit of advice you want to leave to the new widow that this is her first holiday?
Oh gosh, it's going to sound harsh, but it's just because I can't formulate words right now. But not to run from it.
Yeah.
Not to run from it.
Yeah.
I think our natural instinct is to want to do that.
Yeah.
Do something totally different. I'm going to Hawaii for Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to. I think we're scared of what we've always done because it's going to stir things up. But the truth is, Christmas is always going to be here.
Yeah.
Hanukkah's always going to be here. Your birthdays, your anniversaries, the dates are on the calendar and you can't ignore them. So you might as well just face it.
Yeah.
And it's ugly and it's hard and it's, you know, what are you going to do? Like I remember Christmas morning, because again, with Ryan's schedule, you know, we had no consistent thing that we did Christmas morning, but I remember waking up Christmas morning and it was the first time that the kids too, we were just like, oh, well, I guess we can just open gifts because we didn't have to wait for him. Normally they'd have to wait for him to come home.
Right.
Or, you know, we'd have to get up really early and have Christmas before he went to work. And so it was the first time where I was just like, oh, like this is different. I guess we can just open gifts, you know? And I think running from it is probably the worst thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The easiest thing. It's the easiest thing.
Oh, yeah,
to
it's
do.
the easiest thing, for sure, 100%. And I think my advice is to have a plan.
Have a plan.
Go into it with a plan. Know what it's going to be. If your plan is you're going to stick to the traditions, then stick to the traditions.
Yeah.
If your plan is, I'm going to stick to the traditions, but I'm going to put the penguins over here instead, or I'm going to move this around, then do that. And also, if you decide you don't want to celebrate, but you're just going to be with your family and you're not going to decorate, that's your plan.
Yeah, that's true.
That can be
That's
the plan
true.
too. The plan can be that. So,
Yeah.
but I agree with you. Don't try to change it so drastically because that and run from it. Friends, I hope this was enlightening to you and it gave you some energy and you could see that you can live. You can live after grief. You can live after loss. Thank you so much. Share your blog with us real quick.
It's faithandfire.net.
Faithandfire.net. You guys, there you can find Jen's whole entire story where she shares about her first Christmas, her first holiday, her anniversary without her husband, and her beautiful children. I love that you allowed us in for these few minutes. We'll see you on the next podcast. It's healingstartswiththeheart.com. Have a great day. Bye, friends.